Hey everyone, Brand Flakes here, finally back from vacation, and what better game to start back with than Omega Strikers, which is a game that a lot of Eternal Return content creators have moved on to, with Eternal Return becoming less popular over the last month or so. And I gave it a bit of a try myself. I played the beta around 6 months ago, and with the release of the open beta, I believe in the last week and all the traction it's been getting, I decided to play the game again to see how different it felt than when I had played before with friends. So all the content you'll see in the background is from my stream. So if you want to see the full video, I think I'll just leave it on the Twitch VODs just because re-uploading a lot of the gameplay does seem a bit unnecessary, and also I'm a terrible player and it was a lot of molding, so probably not the best content to put up on YouTube, but I'll be explaining the reasons why I got so annoyed with the gameplay and the reasons why I'm kind of hesitant to continue playing the game as time goes on. But first of all, I just want to say that Odyssey has done a beautiful job with Project P. The characters are beautiful, the effects are beautiful, like you can really see the voice actors also have so much personality in these characters when they do get the MVP, and it's a really well developed game in my opinion. The gripes that I have are mostly about things that could be very easily added into the game, so I'll start with the positives first. So Omega Strikers for an open beta game is very, very smooth. I didn't run into a single bug the entire time I played it, and I played it for around 4 hours. And I don't know if you guys ever played Eternal Return, but you run into a bug in Eternal Return maybe like once every game and a half. So the absolute fluidity of this game is beautiful. The skills do feel pretty responsive. There is a lot of visual clutter, to be fair. There's a lot to keep track of. So sometimes you'll think that your ability didn't work or something weird happened, but when you watch the replay, you realize it did work. It was just so, cluttered that you just couldn't tell what had happened. So I guess I kind of mixed the positive with negative there, that the clutter of the game is really there, but that's honestly just because I'm new to the game, and once I get adapted to it, the clutter will be less harsh on my eyes. And the game, well, I didn't really play with friends for stream today, or rather, when I was recording footage for this, but when I played with friends, the game was very, very fun because it's a lot of fun communicating with your friends. It's a lot of fun, like, kind of coordinating attacks or just strategies with your friends and seeing them work out in real time. So this game as a social game is really, really good, and honestly it's a lot more fun socially than Herbs was when you played duos and squads, just because with the Eternal Return it was a lot of quiet time, just like chatting here and there while you were crafting things. In this game you get right into the action and you start with everything immediately, so it's just a lot of chaos instantly. It's a lot of fun just to bicker and chime in with friends as the game goes on. And there are a lot more positives that I could probably make up, like the community has been very active. I personally haven't joined the Discord myself, but a few close friends of mine have been, in touch with the developers and everything, and they love the developers. Like, you guys have a very, very good team on your hands because they're always going to be very open with communication. They'll be very clear with what they want to do with the game, and honestly, once again, with the lack of very obvious bugs in the game, you have a team that's really dedicated to making sure that you have the most optimal performance possible with this game. And it really shows, just like with the amount of care, like all of these animations are so good. Like when I played this game, a lot of characters were missing hitboxes, missing animations, missing details, graphics, and like they're blurry and other stuff. But right now, like, every character looks so great. It's actually incredible to see how far they've come. And so, if you guys know me, I'm not actually really a positive reviewer of things. I'm sure if you watch my previous videos, I like complaining a lot, so I'll just be getting into my gripes just because, again, I try not to be a negative person. Well, let me take that back. I would love to be less of a negative person when it comes to reviewing things and enjoying things for how they are, but just because when I was playing stream, again, I was playing alone, so I didn't actually have anyone to distract me as I was playing and get my mind off the things that I was finding kind of unfun with the game. And the very first thing that's really unfun about the game is the matchmaking. The matchmaking, honestly, is probably just terrible because it's an open beta and there's only so many people playing. But even playing in Rookie, you'll see on the screen now, mid-Rookie, like, there is a huge disparity in skill. And it doesn't help that in Rookie you have like -3 +30 LP gains, but What's really crazy is just that, oh, I just realized this is a game where it was a 3v2. Yeah, and you see here, like, there's already 3v2, like, obviously open beta. I'm sure they'll add in leaver penalties and, like, to make this a bit better, but for now, if someone DCs, you're just kind of left with it. So open beta, if there are malicious actors, is fairly easy to grief, especially since I'm not sure what they get for a penalty for leaving. And as you'll play by yourselves, you'll notice that there are so many games where it doesn't feel like you're 100% in control of your gameplay, just because you can, I mean, it's like soccer, right? If you ever played soccer, you'll realize that it's very difficult, or else you're just that much more physically gifted than your opponents. It's very difficult to play and win a game by yourself because you have to, you know, run through other people who are trying to get the ball from you and all these other things. And something that kind of detracts from this game when compared to like Rocket League, which would be its nearest competitor, and even just soccer in general, is the fact that, you know, you don't actually have ways to juke a dribble from your opponent. Like, you'll see that you can't really carry balls with you in this game. You have to just shoot it forwards or walk along it, and due to that, it's actually quite difficult to deny your opponents from kicking the ball out there. So with that in mind, this is a very, very team focused game. Like, that's all this game is about for the most part. Once you learn your abilities, once you get your kind of like control down, like, in my opinion, I'm terrible with like these like really intense micro situations, so obviously there'll always be room to grow when it comes to keeping track of cooldowns and where my positioning is, where my opponent's positioning is, and my own cooldowns and blah blah blah. But when it comes down to it, at the very top pro level, where I would assume, you know, the most interesting games for this gameplay for this game would be, it would be almost entirely about the teamwork. So how people communicate their cooldowns to sync up with your cooldowns, and how you're going to direct the ball to make sure that you can get a play going. Right now, there's no way to communicate that with your teammates. And I've heard a few things about, you know, Odyssey's future outlook when it comes to making like communication based systems. I'm not actually sure how much I can say because a friend told me, so I'm just gonna not say anything. But right now there's literally zero communication in the game. You have these emotes, which okay, yeah, the emotes are great. I think there are a few emotes that are a little odd, like the ones that include real things, like the like Moist Critical's emote and I Keep It Talk's emote. They're a little uncanny because they didn't quite make the artwork like super unrealistic. They're kind of like halfway between realistic and cartoon, which makes them look kind of odd. But that aside, like the actual character emotes, like everything else that's more like, you know, in the style of the game is beautiful, and I have no problems with them whatsoever. But again, like there's not even an emote for like push for a goal. There's no emote for like defend. There's no emote to say like, oh, I want to play here, or you should go goalie, or I'll play top bottom. Like, there's no communication in the game, which means that all communication is gonna happen through Discord, which is weird because this is such a team-focused game. Like, when you're playing the game solo queue, you're not only having to predict your opponent's like direction of hitting the ball and like how you're gonna play around that, you also have to play around your teammates and just somehow knowing and hoping that they're gonna correctly pass the ball to you. It's all very odd because, again, like this game is so character dependent, or it's so team dependent. And for a lot of characters, I mean, okay, for certain characters, you do rely on your team a lot to get the most value out of your abilities. Like, for example, I think her name is Era. She has a lot of buff and debuff abilities, and if you can't tell your teammates to push with your haste buff might be very underutilized. Whereas somebody like Juliet or X, who are very independent, they don't really care about the team as much because, you know, if you play the game, you know the pain of being punched into a wall by X or Juliet almost immediately and just getting one tap by them for what feels like no reason. And so, like, the way you counter characters like that in, I guess, League of Legends terms, like games like League of Legends or Dota, is that you would communicate with your team and focus that character down, or like play around it with communication. But since we're talking about Omega Strikers, a game that has no communication whatsoever, you actually can't play around situations like that because they don't have that system implemented whatsoever. And the reason why I find it concerning is because this is the open beta. The game's been in development for well over a year now. When I play the alpha, I'll be very honest, the gameplay from alpha is very close to what we have now. So they were developing like, textures, like skills, and like perhaps balance, but the UI, like the way the game functions on UI scale, feels about the same. And I'm sure, again, there are no bugs, so I'm sure a lot of the development time was getting rid of all the nasty bugs that existed. But was it really, again, I don't know much about development, but was it really that hard to like add in a text chat, or even just a few emotes that told your teammates where you would go and what you would want to do? I personally don't think it would be that hard, or even just like voice comms. Obviously, voice comms are a little dangerous because voice comms are voice comms. But just anything to let my team know that, oh, I'm gonna use my ability first, and like I want you to play around this, or even to have my teammates tell me what they're gonna do, because like I'm new to this game. I don't know what every character does or what their strategy is, and how am I supposed to learn that from playing the game unless I go to outside resources, right? Like the game, again, open beta makes total sense. It's a bit bare bones when it comes to features, but it really feels like I'm supposed to go, I have to reach out to other people, or I have to play every single character, but I'm doing this all while in rookie, where the matchmaking is terrible, like the skill gaps are massive, and game quality honestly varies like massively. Like some games feel really nice to play, and other games just feel like you're praying that your teammate is better or worse, and that's like classic to every game. But in a game like Omega Strikers, where you only have 3 players, it feels even worse, because if you have one bad player, that's 33% of your team that's gonna do poorly, and you're the bad player and you have another bad player, there's almost no way your remaining third, which would be hopefully a good player, can carry you unless the other team is also terrible. And that just makes for such a bad experience, because you're just rouletting how many bad people are on one side comparatively to the other side. And again, I get that it should be remedied by the existence of, just doing a pre-made group, or having like a Discord call or voice call, but again, what's the point of having solo queue if your game is meant to be played via Discord or like TeamSpeak? And then what's the point of not just having the ability to communicate with the team if you're going to make a competitive game that's super dependent on co-op? Like the end goal in this game, in my opinion, for very competitive play, no one's going to make an accidental goal from shooting it from the other side of the ring and no one touching it until it hits the other goalie, and all the goalie's like AFK or like eating lunch or something, right? That's never gonna happen. But the game it's gonna be so hard to develop the game past that point if we never have the ability to communicate. And in my opinion, that's almost entirely my main gripe with the game. The fact that there's no way to communicate with your team whatsoever just really kills the vibe for me. Like, it's so frustrating already to begin with, playing the game and getting bad teammates, but the fact that I can't even ask them, hey, do you want to play back? Like, do you want to maybe swap goalies with me? Do you want me to play around you in certain ways? Like, or even just explain to them like, hey, you can flip your mouse really fast to like kick the ball, right? Like, the fact that I can't do any of that in a game that's brand new, and the fact that I'm not even sure that they'll be adding content like that in the near future is really, really concerning. Like, I want to enjoy a game where I can focus on improvement, and I can also focus on improving through communication and talking to others and, collaboration, but why do I have to go to Discord to do that? Like, if I want to I can't do what I do in a total return and just solo grind this game in my own head and like figure out unique niches here and there, because this game simply does not allow for that. I have to actually like communicate with people, coordinate, and make plays, and it's just not a thing. And I think this game will improve so much. Like, I get that when you open voice chats and you allow for communication, toxicity increases, but if we're going to be honest, dude, like, toxicity exists outside of the game. Just because you can't see it in your game doesn't mean that it's not a thing, right? Like, just because someone can't trash talk you in the game doesn't mean that they're not gonna go to Discord and trash talk you in Discord, right? So it just doesn't really make sense to me. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this video. I know it's a bit of a rough one, but I just played this today. I want to get my first impressions out there. I really hope you guys enjoy the game. It's honestly very, very well made, and hope to see you guys next time when I have another stream or video. Bye bye.